Hi guys, in this video we'll talk about what makes a AWS subnet, a public subnet and a private subnet. So I'm in my subnet window. As you guys can see, I have two public subnets and two private subnets. Does does it like the name makes it public or private subnet, or is there like complex difference between how it getting created, or is just one simple thing that makes it a public subnet and a private subnet? Let's dive in and check out this one. So I'm removing some unnecessary information here and get only required information displayed. So I have my subnet name, subnet ID, state, IP version for side range, and another field called auto assign public IP for address. So you guys can see out of these four subnets, three are having auto assign public IP4 address as no, and one is having it as yes. So this field makes it a public subnet and a private subnet? The simple answer is no. This does not change a factor. This is a public subnet or private subnet. It only affects on the public IP assignment part to the resources that get created in these subnets. I will explain this in a bit more in a while. So let's see what actually makes a subnet a public and private subnet. So in order to do that one, we need to check the route tables assigned to this each and every subnets. Okay. So what makes it a public subnet? What is a public subnet? Public subnet is a subnet from where which you can go to the internet, right? So in order to go to the internet, you need to have a default route. That means a route indicating 0.0.0.0/0 and pointing it to the internet gateway. So in my last one of the videos, we created this network. You can see that video and see how we created this network, what are the resources available. So this particular VPC has a internet gateway. So if I check one of this my subnets and see the route table, let's see what's the difference between each and every one. So I'm going to click on my private subnet, and if I go to the route table section in here, you guys can see I only have one single route in the route table. That is the local route. That's a private route indicating where I can travel. And if I check my the other private subnet, again I can only see one single route, which is my local routing information. If I check here, you can see that there's another new route apart from the local route. There's another new route pointing 0.0.0.0/0 into internet gateway. This is a special route that is called a default route, a default gateway. So this route points all the traffic which does not falls under the local route, pointing to go to out through the internet gateway. So for the other public subnet also, you can find the same route 0.0.0.0/0. That's the default gateway, default route pointing to internet gateway. That's how a subnet becomes a public subnet and a private subnet. Public subnet, you are going to have the default route pointing to internet gateway, and the private subnet, you are not going to have this route. So that's it. So now you'll be wondering whether I can make a private subnet a public one. Yes, you can. How? You just go to the private subnet you want to make it up, then make a public subnet, and then you go to the route table and you add this particular route. That's the only thing that you need to do to make a private subnet into a public one. And if you want to remove a public subnet into a private one, you just remove this route. So let's go, and I'm going to change my one of my private subnet into public. So I went to my route table and I opened my route table which is attached to my private subnet. I'm going to go to routes and I'm going to edit the route, and I'm going to now add a default gateway. What's that one? So I'm going to add 0.0.0.0/0 and pointing it to the internet gateway. And now I'm going to save it. So now this particular private route, this particular private subnet is a public subnet right now, because you can see in its route table I have that default gateway. So I can change the name private into public, and just as it is, I change my private subnet into a public one. Simple as that. That's the only change that makes it a public and a private subnet. Next, I'm going to show you guys how to make a public subnet a private one. So I'm going to now pick one of my public subnet, and I'm going to go to the route table, click on my route, open my route table in a new tab, and I'm going to navigate to that route table. Then I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go routes, edit my route. Now I have the default gateway in here. So what I need to do, I need to remove the default route in the route table to make it a public subnet into a private subnet. So I just removed the default route in my public subnet, and now this is working as a private subnet. So I can go and change the name, the public name, into private subnet. So that's for just identification purpose only. Just naming does not affect anything with whether it's a public subnet or private subnet. It's just for the identification. So now you guys understand what it makes a public subnet and what it makes a private subnet. Now you will be wondering what this auto assign public IP version for address IPv4 address setting is. What it actually do. If it does not make it subnet a public or private, what is the benefit of this one? Simply put, it will help you to automatically assign a dynamic public IP version for address to a resources which you deploy it into the subnet itself. So like for example, if you deploy an EC2, ECS or EKS nodes into this subnet which has the auto assign public IP version for address enabled, and when you're creating the said resource, if you do not explicitly deny attaching any public IP addresses, it will automatically attach a dynamic IP version for public IP address to the resource. So you don't have to later on attach any elastic public IP addresses to the resource. You can directly have a public IP version for address when you are creating the resource itself. So now you'll be wondering whether you can enable or disable this setting in the subnets. First, you have to click on the subnet, then click on actions, click on edit subnet settings option, and then you will be able to see a checkbox. You can click on it if it's you need to enable it, or uncheck it if you want to disable it. That's it. Then you can see now the one it was enabled earlier, now it's disabled. Now none of the subnets which I'm having that option enabled. So that's how you can enable or disable this setting. So if you find this one useful, share this one with other people, and you can subscribe to channel. And if you have questions or comment, please put it in the comment section. And if you want to see something new in the next video, specific thing, just let me know in the comments. I will happy to check that for you. See you in the next video.